Salam.
No, I'm alright. I'm gonna be in a bit.
Just put it there. So they will take it. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah. Innal hamdalillah nahmaduhu wa nasta'inuhu wa nastaghfiruhu wa na'udhu billahi min shururi anfusina wa min sayyiati a'malina. Man yahdihillahu fala mudilla lahu wa man yudlil fala hadiya lahu. Wa ashhadu anna la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh. Yeah. Don't just leave it over there. Inshallah, anyone who wants it will take it from there. Yeah, just put it there. Okay. Last time we finished the Isra wal Mi'raj. Alhamdulillah. Took us a little bit of time, but Alhamdulillah, we finished it. So after the Prophet ﷺ came back from the Isra wal Mi'raj, he started preparing, basically. He started putting seeds for Medina. He started preparing for the Hijrah. You remember what the situation, the political situation was for Prophet ﷺ? I mean, at this point, politically, where is he?
He's being protected by another person.
Yeah.
Can't remember the name, but he had come back and he didn't
From
have
the Taif, yeah. Yeah.
He didn't have a protector. And then
He didn't have the
approached
protection.
the person for
Yeah.
protection.
Yeah. It was
The
Mutam
person-
ibn Adi.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's it.
so Mutam ibn Adi. So he's under the protection of Mutam ibn Adi. His own tribe has disowned him. Abu Lahab initially, we discussed, initially gave him the protection and told him, carry on doing as you were under the protection of Abu Talib. But then later on, Abu Jahl managed to get him out of the protection. And then Abu Lahab came and said, I'm not going to protect you anymore. And then he went to Taif actually looking for an alternative, because without any protection, it's impossible to live in Mecca anymore. So he went to Taif and that didn't work out. So he came back. On his way back, he couldn't go back to Mecca without any protection. So he asked few people, and Mutam ibn Adi was the one who actually gave him the protection. Um, so Mutam, he's under the protection of Mutam ibn Adi. So he's in a very difficult, precarious situation at the moment, politically speaking. So he was approaching to the people for da'wah when they were coming to Hajj anyway, before all of this happened. Even when Abu Talib was alive, he was still doing that, even at that time. But he started doing it with more zeal and So and the other thing is that he started presenting himself for adoption, basically. And the word used is arada nafsuhu. So he was presenting himself. So it was more of not just the dawah itself, he was asking for, basically, for political asylum as well. So he was asking for somebody to adopt him. So he was approaching different uh, different tribes. And Mutim was a very old man, and he's given the protection, and he was true to his word. He kept his word, but he was an old man, and Prophet ﷺ knew that. I mean, if he dies, then there would be no protection for him after that. So he wanted to have another alternative. And in fact, Mutim did die straight after the Hijrah. Soon after Hijrah, even before Badr, Mutim had already died. And Prophet ﷺ after Badr praised him in a way he hardly praised any other non-Muslim. He said that if Mutim has been alive and he would have uttered just one word, I would have given him all these natnat. He said all this filth. There's 70 prisoner of war because they've just came to kill the Muslims. So he said I would have given all of these for just one word. If he needed to just utter one word, and I would have given him all of those 70 prisoner of wars. So that's a high praise. Um, um, so Mutim died soon after the Hijrah, so within a year or so. So Prophet ﷺ tried presenting himself to the different tribes which were coming for the Hajj, and Hajj was a phenomenon which has, as we speak, that it is not something which started with Islam. It was there even before the Islam. So since Ibrahim alayhi salam called for the Hajj, as Allah told him to, as in the Quran, that call for Hajj and people will respond. Since then, it was a tradition which was carrying on every year. So Hajj was happening even before the Islam came. So in the pre-Islamic era, Hajj was still happening. Although they have changed the talbiyah a little bit and they have added a few of their own rituals, which we discussed in the past, but the whole event of Hajj was happening even before Islam. And like today, if you go, and I'm sure a lot of us have been to Hajj, Alhamdulillah. So you will find that Europe has a section of Mina, and American has a section, and the Pakistanis have a different section, and the Saudis have a different section. So Mina, they have divided it into different sections. At that time, it was still the same kind of case. They had divided Mina into different tribes. So each tribe had a specific area where they would camp, and they will make camp and during the Hajj season. So Prophet ﷺ,
Was that based on status?
yes, I mean the bigger tribe would take a bigger area. Who would argue with them? Obviously, Quraysh would have the best area because they are Quraysh. They are have the most status because they are the custodians of Kaaba. So obviously they were the most prestigious tribe. And but the other tribes, the bigger the tribe, more people will be coming. So obviously they will have bigger areas. The smaller tribes, where few people have just come, they will just take up any space.
When you say close to, was it close to the Jamarat or close to when you were saying they were in?
No, in different areas in Mina, there was no, I'm not sure exactly how they were set up. But they had different areas specified to them. So different tribes had different areas specified for them, and they will come and they will camp there during the Hajj season.
So this setup, when I went in 1978, it wasn't there. 1978, you go wherever. You
Okay.
go where I take you.
Mm.
But now, after the fires, there were major fires. They were forced to make fireproof tents and.
But I think even at that time, different countries had specified areas. Yes, they were not given the tents. You will put up your own tent, but there you had a specified area that this is.
The Mutawif would put the tents at that time.
Yeah.
The Mutawif, while these tents actually made by the government.
Mhm.
And they allocate, as you're saying,
Yeah.
different countries. And,
Yeah. So this is. So he went to. There's a hadith. I think it was Rabia. What's his name? Yeah, Rabia says that I remember as a child, as a young man, coming when I was on the Hajj, a young man came.
What's a young man to them?
No, he's talking about Prophet ﷺ. He was a child, but he was talking about Prophet ﷺ as a young man. But at the time, young man would be 14, 15. So, because we know that this kind of age, there are narrations where the Sahaba who has actually participated in war. So 14, Prophet ﷺ said no, you can't go. And then when someone was 15, and then he was allowed. So 15, they would consider it as a grown-up man, as like a young man. Um,
Yeah. He's laughing, but I told him this morning, when you're 15, 16, you get married. And
so,
It's
uh,
still doing in some cultures.
yeah. I mean, my
Perfectly normal.
yeah, I think my own father married very young. He was like 17, 18 or something. But I mean, that was quite common. But it means 15 is an age which they used to consider as like young man. Means we have actually. I know we have got youngsters sitting here, but we have kind of dumbed down our youth, so we don't allow them to grow up. Um, so at that time, people used to grow up quite quickly because they were given responsibility. You are young, you have to go and earn your own um, living and everything. Um, so what Rabia was saying that when he was young, he remembered a young man used to come speaking to my father, telling him to embrace Islam and worship Allah and leave idolatry, and he asked him to accept him into his tribe. But then I saw there's another elderly man who was wearing a Yemeni cloak with two ponytails, and that was the custom of the Arabs at the time. They used to make ponytails. And when that young man left, that old man came and told them not to do this. And who was that old man? Abu Lahab. So he used to follow Prophet ﷺ, and Prophet ﷺ used to go and ask them and say, well, can you take me? And then Abu Lahab will wait outside. As soon as Prophet ﷺ will leave, he will go and say, no, don't do that. Otherwise you will be in trouble with Quraysh. So, means and his name was Abdul Uzza. Abu Lahab is the laqab he got. Because it says that because he was very handsome man with reddish cheeks and red color, and that's why he was given the name Abu Lahab. Abu Lahab means father of fire. So he was like a handsome man with red cheeks, so that's why he was given this title Abu Lahab. But then it's very true. He is in fire. So because we can say about him for sure that he's in fire because it's in Quran. So
Is that his actual name? Is this just his title?
Abdul Uzza was his actual name.
Oh.
So his title is Abu Lahab. And in another narration, Prophet ﷺ said, who will take me so that I can preach the message of Allah, because the Quraysh have stopped me from doing this. So he was going to different tribes and asking them, can you take me? Then there's a story of Kinda. So Kinda was one of the biggest tribes in Arab at the time. So he went to Kinda, and he said, so when he approached them, Kinda and the chieftains, they listened to him quite attentively, and they said, yeah, your message is very interesting, so come with me and I will give you the audience with the rest of the chieftains, so tell them the same thing which you have just told me. So he went and he spoke to the rest of the chieftains, and then he said that look, um, we agree with your proposal, but if we help you now and accept you and adopt you, and later on you conquer the rest of the Arabs, will you give us the leadership? Basically, will you make us kings after you? So yeah, we will support you. We are there with you, but once you die, will you make us your successor? And Prophet ﷺ said, no. The the land is for Allah, and it's Allah's wish, whoever he gives it to. If you want to be my follower for the reason, political reason, then no, I can't accept that um, kind of that clause for you to be Muslim and to accept me. So if you want to accept, you have to accept it for theological, religious reasons.
Aren't these people like Bedouins?
Not Kinda, I'm not sure. Was that a Bedouin tribe or was that from another city?
Because wasn't
But
the thing where the Prophet said one of the chieftains of a tribe, they said they would um, thingy, they would talk to the other chieftains, and one of them said, "You give us the Bedouin lands, or you make."
oh no, that was, you're talking about different. You're talking about. We'll discuss that. That's in Medina, way ahead. So no, let's not talking about that. So so basically Prophet ﷺ, although he is desperate in looking for a political asylum, but he's true to the religion. So he knows what people need. So if they want to accept Islam, if you want to follow, you need to follow Islam for the right reasons. Because if they are becoming Muslim for the sake of power, then it's not the right reason to do that. So he said no. So they said in that case, we won't be accepting Islam, although they like the message and everything. They said no. So that's the story of the Kinda. Then the next one is Banu Shaban, and he is another big tribe. And remember that at the time, being learned, why would you call, who you would call learned? Who would you call literate?
The monks or the scholars.
Yeah, means who would be the scholar? Because they didn't have books, they were not reading and writing. So who was considered as an educated person?
Shamans.
Someone who could read and write.
Not necessarily.
They
It
were
was
the head of the tribe.
it was actually who knows the lineage. So that was their knowledge. So who knows best lineages, who knows all the lineages, he would be considered as very educated.
Is it like people who've like memorized the Quran? Maybe.
Okay, means yes, means it's quite a lot of thing to memorize, but it's not like memorizing Quran. But it's just that because they didn't had any other literature, so either the literature for them was poetry, or the other thing was lineage. So they used to remember their lineage, so they knew lineage in and out. So, and Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, he was expert in lineages. So whenever Prophet ﷺ used to go to meet these tribes, Abu Bakr would accompany him, and he will tell, "Oh, this is so and so tribe," and he will give him all the kind of background information, and then he will go and speak to him. So when he saw Banu Shaban, he said, "Well, this tribe are the most, like they are the best people in the whole of the surrounding area. So these people are very noble people." So he went and he spoke to them, and he invited them to Allah. And Banu Shaban, their reply was a decent reply. They said, "Well, look, you know that we are on the Syrian border, so we live in the Syrian border, and on the other side is the Sassanid Empire, and it's a big empire, and we have got ties with them. So we have got kind of political relation with them. And if we accept you, then we'll have trouble with them. So as for the side of the Quraysh, we are fully with you. But as for the side of the Sassanid Empire, you have to excuse us. So we are Muslim on this side, but not Muslim on the other side, because we have got political asylum, political relationship with them. And if we accept Islam, we will be in trouble, because means we will be bringing a new thing, which is kind of everybody is against it. So we will be in trouble." And it's a genuine response. They said, "Well, we are worried that because it's a Sassanid Empire, they will if we have got problem with them, we will be in trouble. So Prophet ﷺ said, no, you can't be Muslim on one side and non-Muslim on the other side, or Muslim on one day. As we see in the Quran, when the Quraysh came with Qul ya ayyuhal kafirun la a'budu ma ta'budun wa la antum a'budun, that one day we will all be Muslim and one day we will all worship idols. And Allah said, no, either you are Muslim or you're non-Muslim, so you can't be both. So Prophet ﷺ kind of rejected that, their kind of what they wanted to do. So their offer was rejected as well. So the next thing is the main story which we want to do is there was a small group. As Prophet ﷺ was walking, there was a small group, about 6 people. They were sitting there, and these were the people from Yathrib. So Yathrib, remember, we are still talking about pre-Hijrah. So it's Yathrib at the time. But when Hijrah happened, then Prophet ﷺ changed the name to Medina and said that don't call it Yathrib anymore, because it's not a good name. So it's being considered, we don't call it, but for the historical region, when I'm saying Yathrib, because it's still, we are in the pre-Hijrah time, so that's why I'm saying Yathrib. But Yathrib was the name of Medina, and we are not supposed to call it Yathrib anymore, because Prophet ﷺ has stopped us. But this is just for the historical reason I'm saying Yathrib. So there was a small group from Yathrib. So they were sitting there, and so Prophet ﷺ actually gave them the dawah, and he gave them the dawah with the same zeal and with the same kind of enthusiasm as he was giving to the bigger tribe. Although he was kind of focusing on the bigger tribe because they could give him political asylum and everything. And these people from Yathrib, nobody knew who they are, but he spoke to them and he didn't ignore them. Although he was focusing on to the main prize, which was the bigger tribe, but he didn't ignore anybody else either. So when he gave him dawah, they all kind of liked it. And there's a little bit of differences that did they accept Islam then and there, or did they say, okay, we will think about it, and they accepted Islam later on. I mean, majority opinion is that they all accepted Islam, all 6 of them. And who were those 6? Oh yeah, so Prophet ﷺ didn't recognize them. When they say, oh, where are you from? He said, we are from Khazraj. And he said, which Khazraj? Is it that the neighbors of the Yahud, neighbors of the Jews? And they said, yes, the same Khazraj, which we are the neighbors of the Yahud. So he said, okay, fine. So he gave them dawah and they all accepted Islam. So let's go to Medina and see what's happening. So Medina is basically in 3 different groups. You can divide them. So 2 Arab groups and a Yahud group. Then Yahud, you can divide them into 3 subgroups. So 2 groups of Arabs, there were 2 big tribes. One was Khazraj and the other was Aus. Khazraj were more poor people, more farmer, and they are expert in the lands, and they were farmers, and they were economically a bit low in the terms of the scale. They would be low down. The Aus was more rich, and they were kind of in business.
Traders.
So yeah, traders and business people. So they were in trade and business. So, and they were slightly richer than the Khazraj. Obviously, there's differences in the tribe. Some would be rich, some would be. But as a whole, Aus was more rich, and Khazraj was slightly more poor. And then there was Yahud. And Yahud had 3 sub-tribes, groups. So Banu Nadir, Banu Kainuqa, and Banu Qurayza. So these are the 3 tribes of Yahud. Inshallah, when we will go to the Medinan Seerah, we will go into more detail. It's quite interesting that where these Yahud have come and where because you have to remember the Aus and Khazraj, they were not from Hijaz area. So they are not from the Arabs. So who are they? Anybody? We have discussed that before.
Yemen?
Yes. Yeah,
Just a
they were.
guess.
Yeah, so they are from Yemen.
The Jews.
Not the Jews. Well, we'll discuss that in more detail. I will go into a different tangent, but it's said that they came from Yemen as well. So these two tribes, they have actually originally came from Yemen. So they were Qahtani Arabs. Anyone remember from the very beginning? Do I need to quiz you? The Adnani Arabs and Qahtani Arabs and all of those lineages which we talked about. So there's two main groups, Adnani Arabs and Qahtani Arabs. Qahtani Arabs are the original Arabs, and the Adnani Arabs are the Arabicized Arabs. So Arab al-Ariba and Arab al-Mustaraba. So the Qahtani Arabs, so these are the Qahtani Arabs actually, the Aus and Khazraj, they were the Qahtani Arabs. So
I have, sorry, I beg your pardon,
Yeah.
because you mentioned that. I had this question last time as well. Is there not a discussion about Christianity and Islam in Quran? Not a lot of it, as compared to, because there's a lot of discussion about Bani Israel. Is it because the Prophet, peace be upon him, had more interaction with Jews as compared to Christians?
there's one thing, yes, and because a lot of what discussion or what mentioned in the Quran is Allah has actually mentioned something from a previous nation to tell him about his problem. So he's given a comparison. Okay, Musa has done this, and with his Bani Israel has, and you have to remember that as Musa said that he is the biggest ummah, and then he was crying because Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam's ummah has become the bigger ummah. So this is the closest to a big ummah. So Allah, whenever Allah is mentioning something, giving him an example, he is giving an example of Bani Israel.
So, but Bani Israel are also, including the Christians, they were all Bani Israel. So all these examples from different previous prophets were all Bani Israel from Yusuf alayhi salam.
That's actually very true. That's
so
that's true.
in terms of numbers, like
Yeah.
all these examples are all Bani Israel up to Isa alayhi salam when they were Christian.
Yeah, but
Who
that's
were also Bani Israel.
yeah. I mean, so that's actually a valid point of the brother that Isa alayhi salam and the
Was sent to Bani Israel, but
Yeah,
then they diverted and they...
yeah, means in Quran when it says Yahud and Nasara, because when it says
Yeah.
Christian, it says the word Nasara. When it says Bani Israel, majority, I agree that it's been talking about Musa alayhi salam and his ummah and his time, but everybody will be in Bani Israel. So the whole, even the Christians would be considered as Bani Israel because they are the progeny of Israel. They are the continuation of the
I
same
know that,
people.
but I feel that there is a slight imbalance, or I shouldn't say imbalance, but that's what I perceive.
Yeah, Musa alayhi salam is mentioned more,
More as compared
and as compared to Isa alayhi salam, because you have to remember Isa alayhi salam had a shorter lifespan,
Oh yeah.
and he was taken up. So Musa alayhi salam has bigger examples. A lot of he was like, I don't know, more than 100-year-old, 150. So when he passed away, so he lived a long life, and so he had a lot of struggle with his people. So there's a lot of examples for Allah to quote when he's talking to Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. So these are all these examples being given to Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam and for us as well.
Most of the examples are what not to do. They use them as how shall I put it, things that we shouldn't do, or use them in a I'm going to say bad context, but lessons. that we
Prohibitive
can learn.
context.
Sorry?
A prohibitive context.
Prohibited, yeah. Lessons that we can learn, draw from the
Yeah.
Israel.
Yeah, I mean there are things which they have done which are not right, and that's been told us that look, this what they have done, and that was the consequences of that. So that we learn from it, or if they have done something good, then again we have to follow that. We can learn from that by doing the same thing.
I've not come across that maybe that depth of knowledge. anything good that we can learn from them?
No, Allah has not always mentioned in the negative section Bani Israel, because there's stories about Musa alayhi salam going and talking to Pharaoh and freeing them and taking them, and when they crossed the land. So all of these stories are mentioned, which is not negative. They're just
No. What I
Well,
think, what I
realistic.
think the brother is trying to mention is that examples to follow,
Yeah.
things for us to do in remembrance of those Jews. There's not many examples.
But the only thing I would say is although we obviously have a negative modern context politically, the thing is we have more things in common with Jews than non-Muslims.
Yeah.
So in this country, especially if it wasn't for the fact that Jews are powerful, we wouldn't have a lot of meat today. Because by now, there would have been a much more political power to go against us, whereas because we share that need, they've managed it probably better than we would have on our own.
And burials and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, they've got lots of common. We've got. I mean, we are all a believer of the same God.
Yeah.
All the. I mean, there's, as in the Quran says that in the eyes of Allah, with Allah, there's only one deen, and that is Islam. So, from the time of Adam to the time of Prophet ﷺ, Muhammad ﷺ, there's only one religion, one deen, which is Islam. So there's all Islam. Okay, so that's the names which we are giving them, Jews and Christians and all of that.
It's
The
just
deen,
phases.
yeah, the deen is only one, and that is Islam.
What, so Islam was the last real religion, so everything after that
It's always Islam. Basically, the meaning of Islam is to submit, and Muslim means the person who has submitted. So basically, the meaning of Islam means to submit to Allah.
No, but like, did Hinduism come before or after Islam?
Hindus came way after, but I mean, well, actually, they have got a
So
long
Islam
history.
No, but
They
they're
have got a-
idolaters.
Yeah, I know
So
that,
they're
but
well off
so
track.
then
Yeah.
we can say that Islam is the last true religion.
No, I'm talking about for
Historical.
Allah.
Yeah.
There's only one religion.
No, but there
The
was
true religion is only one religion, and that is Islam. And why are we saying Islam? Because that means submitting to Allah. Sorry, Dr. Ghanam wanted to say something. Sorry.
Yeah, imagine if there is no religions at all but Islam,
Yeah.
then you will have extreme difficulty practicing or inviting others.
Yeah.
So you'll be the odd one out. But because there is a lot of other religions and many of them claim obviously the heavenly religions like Christianity and Judaism, and they are in large number,
Mm.
you can still be listened to and not
Yeah.
attacked.
Yeah.
Otherwise, if there's, imagine the whole world only Muslims and atheists,
Yeah.
then you will have a lot of difficulty even
Yeah.
existing.
Yeah. So means if there was just Muslims and like mushriks or
Yeah, where does
atheists,
this
then
idea come
yeah,
from?
yeah.
And,
The brother was saying, what can you learn historically about the Jewish people? If you look at the Jewish people now, specifically at how they conduct themselves in Israel and all over the world, there's a reason why they're the most powerful group. One, they help each other. There's they look at themselves as a proper brotherhood. There's not the way that we are in the Muslim world where it's complete destruction and everyone jealousy and arrogance. So there is a reason why they are the top CEOs and they help each other get to that level as well. Whereas in some companies I work for, if an Asian person sees another Asian person, they're not going to promote them.
Yeah,
There's
means
a reason for
I agree with, and we will inshallah talk about this mu'akha in more detail, which when it will come, and people actually think that mu'akha only happened in Medina between the Muhajir and Ansar, but the scholars say that no, there was mu'akha in the time of Makkah. Prophet ﷺ actually did the mu'akha, the pairing up in Makkah, and how he managed, how he paired up the people. It's I mean, you can actually read in a lot in that by looking at the pairs. So there was a wisdom behind pairing two people. It was not just on random. So Prophet ﷺ, like just we're giving you an example. So he in Medina, it was Abdurrahman ibn Auf, the businessman.
Yeah.
So he migrated, and he was paired with, I can't remember the name of the Ansari now, who actually was a businessman as well. So Abdurrahman ibn Auf was having he was the person with a lot of ideas. So he was a very shrewd businessman, who has got a lot of ideas. So he was paired with a person who was actually had a lot of money. So he was a financer. So we have got a person with a lot of ideas, good ideas, paired with a person who can actually finance. So that was so. So there was a lot of wisdom between the why he paired people which he paired. But we will discuss in the we are getting way off topic. So let's go back to the what we were discussing. So before the Prophet ﷺ, what were we? I can't remember now. Yeah, so he spoke to them before the Hijrah. There was a battle which happened, which was called the Wars of Bu'ath, which lasted for quite 4 or 5 years. So different battles. So they were just happening. What happened with that? That all the senior leadership of Aus and Khazraj, they all got killed, because those were battles which continued on and on and on. And by the time the Hijrah happened, or it was close to the Hijrah, when these people were coming to the Mecca and they accepted Islam, they were actually sick and tired of all this fighting and their ways of living, because they have lost so many people in those wars. And there was all this young generation which has emerged, because all the senior have been killed in the wars. So they're like young leaders, young upcoming leaders, which are actually more accepting to the change, rather than the old people who are just very fixed with their ideas, and they just can't accept the change. Which we see in Mecca as well. All these Abu Jahl and Umayyas and all of these people, they were very fixed, and but the younger people, they were accepting Islam. But all these elderly and chieftain senior people, not a lot of them accepted Islam, apart from very few of them, like Umar and Hamza. And Umar was quite young as well, actually, when he accepted Islam. But Hamza was the senior most figure who accepted Islam. But the younger people is easy to accept change. The older people are more fixed with their ideas. So that's why these young people who were coming, one, they were actually really sick and tired of their ways and their wars, and they have seen the destruction. Yes.
Who was this battle between? Sorry.
Between Aus and Khazraj.
Oh, so
in Medina. So the two tribes, they were fighting
Yeah,
amongst
the
each
Arab
other.
tribes that were fighting
Yeah, Arab
each other.
tribes. So they were fighting with each other and were killing each other.
Okay.
So Aisha Radhiyallahu anha in a hadith, she says that the day of Bu'as was actually a gift that Allah has given to Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. And that's the reason why it's been called as a gift, the reason which we've just discussed. So the only senior member which was left from these wars is Abdullah ibn Ubay, and he was thinking that he will become the next leader, because he was the most senior, most left. So he was like the de facto leader of Medina. But with Prophet ﷺ going, obviously he became the leader. So that was one thing which really made Abdullah ibn Ubay really bitter, and we will find out later on he's the leader of the hypocrites. So Abdullah ibn Ubay. So that was one thing which actually he never forgot, because he was thinking, okay, I'm the senior most, I'm the next leader, and the leadership he never got the leadership, because everybody accepted Islam and they all followed Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. So he became quite bitter about that. So he never actually forgot that. So before Prophet ﷺ met these people from Medina, there is some indication that there are people who are accepting Islam, some of them which we have discussed previously as well. So there's a story of Iyas bin Mu'adh from Yathrib. He was a young man who came in a delegation. He was from Khazraj. So the Khazraj actually came bring a delegation to meet Quraysh and to ask for their help against Aus in their fight. So he came, and when they were in Mecca, Prophet ﷺ, as his was his habit, he would go and give dawah to everybody who was coming to the city. So he went and he started talking to them about Islam and giving dawah to them. And this young man, Iyas, he got really excited. He said, yeah, I mean, this is exactly what we want. I mean, this is a very good message. So he told his chieftain, listen to this man. He's talking about something which is kind of brilliant. So we should all accept that. And it says that he picked up some sand and threw on his face and said, just concentrate on what we have come for asking for help for the Quraysh, and forget about everything else. So he kept quiet because obviously he was like a junior member. He was not from the leaders. So he kept quiet. But the people of Medina said that when Iyash was dying in one of the battles, he was saying Subhanallah and Alhamdulillah and Allahu Akbar. So obviously he was a Muslim. The other story is about Abu Dhar Ghifari. He is I forgot to mention. So one of them was Suaid ibn Samit. He is another person who came, and he was a poet, and he was a very good poet. He came and he said to Prophet ﷺ, I've heard that you have got some beautiful poetry. And he said, but I've got something nice as well, because he was a very famous poet. And Prophet ﷺ said, so what have you got? He said, well, I've got so Hakim Luqman's sayings. And Prophet ﷺ said, okay, then tell me about what you have got. And he recited his poetry. And Prophet ﷺ said, yeah, it is nice, but I've got something better. And he said, okay, your turn now, you tell me. And Prophet ﷺ recited a phrase, some ayahs from the Quran. And he said, well, wallahi, I've never heard anything like this. And he accepted Islam then and there. And he went back to Medina, and he was a Muslim as well. And he died in the wars of Boas as well. So he's another one who accepted Islam.
So Surah Luqman was not revealed.
No.
It had revealed.
Yeah, so it was like their own folklore.
No. When Prophet recited as well, so it was revealed before. He just told him, the poet, the ayah from Quran. It wasn't revealed there.
I don't know which ayah he told. He said was recited.
Whatever the ayah was, but it wasn't revealed at that point.
No. He just
showed.
he just recited few ayahs from the Quran. Not he didn't get the revelation at the time. No. So he Prophet. So there is another one, Abu Dhar Ghifari. He's from Ghifar. He's one of the famous Sahaba. He's from Ghifar, but he was settled in Yathrib. And he, when he heard from Suayd ibn Samit and Iyas and other people about this Islam and Prophet ﷺ, he said, he sent his brother to I've heard about this, go and find out what it is, because I'm interested in finding out more about this new message. So his brother came to Makkah, came back, but he didn't give him kind of reasonable answer. So he said, okay, I'm going to go to Makkah myself, and I will talk to Prophet ﷺ myself and find out what's going on. So he went to Makkah, and he said, he couldn't find Prophet ﷺ. So he was looking and looking, and he was moving around. And in the evening, Ali Radhiyallahu anhu saw him and said, you look like you are a traveler, and you seem to be not having any space to stay. And he said, yes. So he said, you look tired and you don't have anything, so why don't you come with me, and I will give you the shelter for you to stay at night. I'll give you some food. And he spent the night with him, with Ali Radhiyallahu. In the morning, he went and he was worried that because he knew that there is a persecution for the Muslims, so he didn't want to ask anybody who's Prophet Muhammad that came to meet him. So he just kept looking and walking around and seeing if I can find this person, and he couldn't. And the night time came again. he saw Ali radiallahu anhu again, and Ali said, well, you have you found what you came for? And he said, no. So he said, why don't you come and stay with me again? So Ali radiallahu anhu took him, and then he said, well, looks like you looking for something. Can I help you? And he said, well, only if you can keep the secret, I will tell you. And he said, yes, tell me what. So he said, told him, that's why I'm here. I'm looking for this prophet. I've heard about the message, so I came to meet him. He said, yeah, fine, I will go and I will take you to the prophet. And he took him to Prophet ﷺ, and Prophet ﷺ gave him dawah. He accepted Islam. He said, I'm going to go and publicly announce my Islam. And Sahaba said, oh, I mean, we are Qurayshi, we can't do, we are worried about going out and doing this publicly. You're not even from Mecca, don't do that. But he said, no, I have to go and do it publicly. I have to go and tell everybody that I've accepted. So he went out to the Kaaba and he said, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah, I've accepted Islam, I'm following and I'm a Muslim and I follow. So all the people, obviously, they just pounced on him and started beating him up to a point where they would have killed him. And Abbas radiallahu anhu came and he stopped them and he said, what are you doing? You know where he's from? He's from Ghaffar, and your trade routes go from where his tribe is. So if we kill him, you will never be able to get your caravans on the trade route. So think about it. So they stopped. So Abu Dharr Ghafari went back. He stayed another night, and the next day he said, I'm going to go and do the same thing again. So Abu Dharr Ghafari went and he said in the Kaaba, he said it publicly that I'm a Muslim and I'm the follower. And again, what we think what had happened, they started beating him up again to a point where he was almost like close to being dead or being hospitalized. And then Abbas, I don't know, again saw him this happening, and he came and he stopped saying the same thing, that why are you beating this man up? Don't you know where his tribe is? You have to take your caravans for your trade route, and how would you think you will do that if you kill him? So they stopped, and then Abbas told Abu Zayd, look, you can't keep doing this, and I can't really keep on saving you like this, so you have to leave. So he went back to Medina and stayed there. So that's the story of Abu Zar Ghafari radiallahu anhu. So the main conversion which happened was the 10th year of the Dawah, the same year basically when the Abu Talib died, the first 6 I'm talking about. And then the next year, if they will come back, about 12 of them will come back, and they with the Islam. So the first one is the Khazraj, and so why this happened? Obviously, the most important thing is because Allah wanted it to happen. Why these 6 people from Khazraj came and accepted Islam from nowhere? Well, it's Allah's qadr. So the second thing is that Khazraj was the only Arab which had actually the knowledge of monotheistic belief, because they were living with the Jews, and the Jews are the monotheists. So they had already the knowledge of monotheistic belief, of the Abrahamic belief. And the other thing is that the Jews kept on boasting, and they were just telling all these Aus and Khazraj that just wait, it's just a matter of time. Our Prophet is just about to come, and as soon as he comes, we will just conquer all of you and massacre you, and you will all be slaves, because we will just conquer the whole Arab, which actually happened, but they just rejected the Prophet when it did come because of their arrogance. So Aus felt a little bit of inferiority complex, that we don't have a prophet. When they found a prophet, they said, yeah, it seems like a good idea to accept this prophet, because from this because they had a prophet and they had a religion and they had a kind of culture and everything which came from their religion, so we should have the same thing. So they were keen on accepting the Islam. The people who were there, the first week, were Uqba ibn Amir, Jabir ibn Abdullah, Asad ibn Zurara, Auf bin Harith bin Rafa, Rifi bin Malik, Rafi' bin Malik bin Ajulan, and Qutbah bin Amir. So these are the people who came, the first 6. The next time, about 12 came. The next year, 70 of them will come, and that we will discuss that, inshallah. I know that it's 9 o'clock. We wanted to go a little bit more, but inshallah we'll do that next time.
So you said the Quraysh were the custodian of Mecca. So the current royal family, are they descended from the Quraysh?
They're the same, yeah. I mean, they're the same Quraysh. So the families are the same.
It's not the Saudi family.
It's two.
Not the Saudi family. The people who are living.
The royal family are the ones that rule the country, and
Yeah.
then there's one family that have been passed
Yeah,
historically.
they are from Najd, Saudi from Najd, not
Yeah.
from
So
Mecca.
the people who were there, Quraysh, they're still living in Saudi Arabia. So the Quraysh are still there. So their progeny is still there.
Who's the custodian of Mecca now?
So they are mostly from Najd, but some of the scholars are from.
The family who has the key, they are from
Yeah, they are from the same.
still
So Abdul Dar.
custodian of the mosque.
Yeah.
And if King Salman or anybody wants to get inside, they
Yeah.
must themselves open the doors.
Yeah. So the Bani Abdul Dar is the one who has the keys, and their descendants still to this day have the keys.
But the Prophet ﷺ said, keep the key, no one will take it from you unless he is aggressor.
Yeah.
لا يأخذها منكم إلا الظالم. So everybody afraid of taking the key from the family.
So they're trapped. They can't take the key off them
No,
if
they
they
can't.
want to.
By
But there's
default,
very
become
strong
transgressors.
hadith. About it.
But it is amazing that that family still to this day hold the key,
Yeah.
and it's their gift that obviously that they open it and they manage it.
Yeah. سبحانك وبحمدك لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. Inshallah.
I
Jazakallah khair.
still have that question.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Go ahead.
I just wanted to ask